Hey guys, so I wanted to share another concept today that I happen to find pretty interesting. So basically what we're going to be talking about is using unconventional melodic groupings of notes in your phrasing. So what exactly do I mean by that? Um, Now, I understand it in my head, but it's for some reason I'm having a hard time articulating this on camera right now. So I think the easiest thing to do is to basically just show you the example and tell you what I'm going to do, and hopefully it should make sense. So basically, I have a loop recorded today that is the first 8 bars of the Charlie Parker tune Confirmation, basically this, okay? And I wrote this line out over these 8 bars, and all it is rhythmically is literally just straight eighth notes, okay? If you look at it on a piece of paper, rhythmically speaking, all you would see is straight eighth notes, and if you analyze the notes melodically in relationship to the chord changes, there really isn't anything harmonically like modern or advanced going on either. It's pretty straightforward in terms of how I'm outlining the chord changes here. But there's one very specific thing that I did, at least to the first 6 measures. This doesn't apply to the last 2 measures. I'll explain why in a little bit. But for the first 6 measures, basically what I did was, when I composed this line, I took my time with it slowly, and I basically wrote it out in small melodic fragments of groupings of 3 notes at a time, okay? So basically, what I mean is I basically sort of thought about 3 notes at a time as I went through. And again, if you actually chop it up into fragments of these 3 notes in a weird sort of way, and maybe this can be debated, but each one of those 3 note fragments, melodically speaking, kind of stands alone as it is. And if you just play that by itself, it doesn't feel like it necessarily needs to go anywhere. And that's how I sort of define this unconventional grouping of melodic phrase, or unconventional melodic groupings of notes, because typically when you're playing just straight eighth notes, especially through something like this, you tend to group the notes in more so like even numbers of notes at a time, whether it's 4 notes or 8 notes, for example. I mean, even when you have those 2 fives where it's like a half measure each per chord, usually you're play 4 notes or 4 eighth notes on each chord, and you're still doing that, but I'm thinking about like melodically grouping them in 3 notes at a time. So let me just play the line first, and then I'll kind of show you what I did. So this is the line. Sorry. Okay. And again, those last 2 measures, it doesn't apply to that. All right, and those last 2 measures, that 2 5, 1 2 3 4 1 2. Actually, I just literally just ripped off a cool Bill Evans 2 5 line that I liked. It's so that's a cool one you can take. But the first 6 measures, like I said, I basically grouped it in 3 notes at a time. So let me just kind of actually exaggerate that for you right now so you can kind of see. If I just play the line straight through but kind of break it up into 3 note fragments, you have this. Okay, so that's it. And then you have the 2 5 line for the last 2 measures. And I don't know, maybe you can hear what I'm talking about, maybe you can't. But you can kind of see, like, melodically speaking, by writing it out in groupings of 3 notes at a time, you're basically kind of creating a unique sound with the phrasing, especially, if you kind of focus on your articulation as well. Like, maybe you want to accent the first of every 3. That would really make it stick out. I can do it again. I'll really try to accent the first one of every 3. actually didn't do that well, but hopefully, again, even without the accents, because of the way I group the notes, it should still pretty much achieve that desired effect, okay? And I'll go through it slowly for you just so you can see, because the thing is, it still has to fit the chord changes, obviously. Now, here's the thing. The reason why I only did this for the first 6 measures is this, okay? Because you're grouping these notes in 3 notes at a time, in terms of like when that is going to loop back around, where the first note of the grouping of 3 is starting on the downbeat of 1, it's going to take a couple measures. So it actually takes 3 whole measures if you're dealing with 8th notes for the first note of the next grouping of 3 to start on the downbeat of 1. And that's why that's 3 measures. You double that, then you have 6 measures. So after 6 measures, the next note, like in your phrasing, like your grouping wise, starts on the downbeat of 1, but there you're only left with 2 measures, so you can't really run a third complete cycle of this again, rhythmically speaking. I mean, you could, but it'll spill over into the next 8 bars. So you just got to be conscious of this, and you got to be conscious of the chord changes. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just to kind of go through it a little bit slowly. So, the first measure, we have F major 7 for a whole measure. So the first 6 notes of that, you have 2 groupings. So literally, I'm just using an F major triad. That's the first one. Now, you have 2 8th notes left of this measure. And then it's going to an E half diminished. So the first 2 notes of this next grouping are still going to be F major. But then this one, that's the last one, which is the flat 5 of the E half diminished. Okay, so now we're on the upbeat of 1. Now, we only have 3 8th notes left of this E half diminished, so it works out. So I did this. Okay, basically just outlining the E half diminished. The 7, minor 3rd, flat 5. Okay. Now we're on the downbeat of beat 3, and we're at the A7. 1, 2, 3. Now we have one more 8th note, so we're going to go back up to this. This is basically just like a A7, 3rd, sharp 5 root. So 3 and 4. Now, and 1 and. Now we're going into the D minor. So the first note, we're still on the A7 here. Then D minor now. So that's just the root and the 5th. Okay, so now the next grouping, 2 and 3. Okay, now this note we're landing on the G7, 2 and 3. Now we have 3 8th notes left of the G7, so it works out perfectly. Okay, and we have that altered sound, sharp 5, 7, sharp 9. So that's the first 3 measures, so that rounds out, because the next grouping of 3, we're starting in the downbeat of beat 1 again. So, again, those first 3 measures. Okay, now, next measure, we have the C minor 7 to F7. So, I go straight up C minor triad, 1 and 2, or 1, 2, 3, whatever. 1, 2, 3. Now the next grouping, we're still on the C minor, so we'll go back up to this note. 1, 2, 3. Now we're on the F. We're using that augmented sound, sharp 5 and the 3rd. Okay, now we have the next grouping, we have 2 notes left of the F7, and then we go to B flat 7. So here I'm actually just going to do like a passing tone chromatic thing. So these 2 are still part of the F, but they're really just kind of leading into this, which is the downbeat of the next measure for the B flat 7. Okay, so now we're on the B flat 7. We're starting on the upbeat of 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, so those are the next 2. We're starting again on the and of 1. And 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, yeah, so. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, now we have one more note of the B flat 7 that's starting the next grouping of 3. Okay, but we're going into the A minor here, so then 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so we had 2 more. The next grouping, we have 2 more of the A, and then landing on the D7. Um, and then we're doing like an altered thing there, where it's like sharp 5, sharp 9, flat 9. So coming from, say, the C minor 7 again, because that's in a downbeat of 1. I think that was, yeah, that's the end of it. That's the last three measures. And then next we're on a downbeat of 1, and that's where I just use that 2-5-1 line that I stole. Okay, so I know I went through that super fast, but I think, you understand the concept that I'm talking about. And, it's funny because I'm actually, not even sure myself if this is a legitimate concept or not. Because at the end of the day, I'm still just outlining chord changes and I'm still just playing regular old eighth notes through a chord progression. So phrasing wise, it could be argued that I'm really not doing anything special at all, but I kind of think, again, the fact that I took the time to write this out in groupings of 3 notes at a time, I really do think it has an effect to it. I'll leave you out with just playing it one more time, and again, really try to hear for the first 6 measures how, phrasing-wise and melodically speaking, it sounds like it's being grouped in 3 notes at a time, and how even though I'm still just playing eighth notes, I guess it sort of changes the way they sound or feel. So, one more time, so. You know. So yeah, I hope you can enjoy that and maybe take some stuff from that. Obviously, you can apply this to anything. It doesn't even have to be bebop. Doesn't have to be like crazy chord progression. You can do this sort of concept with static chord progression too, just playing one chord at a time or just one key center. Whatever you want. I guess again, like the main idea is just phrasing wise, grouping your notes in different numbers of notes at a time. And to be honest, taking it through a bebop scenario like this is actually one of the more, I guess, I don't want to say complex, but there's way simpler things that you can do with this. Maybe I can make another video on it, but I thought that this was a cool thing to take it through. So I hope you enjoy that.